Welcome back to the channel. My name is Anthony Wade. It's April 12th. For today's episode, we're going back to the four horsemen of the demon apocalypse, of the demon slayer apocalypse, I should say. Today's episode will be dealing with Mike Signorelli. Mike this is not about demon slaying. This is about him trying to expand his grift, and he has a video out. It's only less than 5 minutes. It says the biggest announcement of my entire ministry thus far. For him, it probably is, because what he's trying to do is drum up, a sense of urgency, and that urgency ultimately revolves around a grift. Send him money, send him money, send him money. That's the message. It's also kind of like an advertisement for him as we go through it. It's I've done this and I did that and the Lord told me this and the Lord told me that, and oops, time is running out, so please send me money. That's the summary. But since it's only 5 minutes in length, I thought we could at least, give Mike our time. So away we go.
What's the worst thing that can happen to a Christian?
That they follow Mike Signorelli?
Arrested in England for silently praying? Thousands martyred in Nigeria?
There have been more Christians killed in Nigeria than any other parts of the world.
Over 2,000 house churches demolished in China?
Yeah. Let me start with, if you're really, really concerned about the state of Christian persecution in the world, which is a very real thing, then you can start by stop pretending that there's persecution in this country where there's not. The people killed for their faith in Nigeria, these churches demolished and destroyed in China, forcing the Christian Chinese underground, and God forbid they get caught. Middle Eastern Christians being beheaded for refusing to renounce their faith. That's all real things. Maybe we should stop pretending that, that the government saying that we shouldn't be a theocracy in this country is persecution, because it's not. And if you're really, really serious about these problems, then you would stop supporting politicians and political parties that could care less about it, including the one in power now.
Officials are believed to have a 20-month deadline to remove every cross from the territory's 4,000 churches.
This isn't new. These are old demons in new days.
Ever the demon slayer nonsense. Everything has to be a demon.
And still, there's time. Maybe just enough. I wasn't even supposed to be here. Oldest of 5, raised by a single mom, abused, silenced, no spotlight, extremely introverted. But somehow, there was still time. Eventually, God said, go, serve the people of New York with your life. So I saw.
Yeah, that wasn't God. And the self-aggrandizement, I'm just serving the people of New York with my life, as I'm grifting as much money from them as humanly possible.
Sold my house, gave up a third of everything I owned, packed a truck, and drove toward destiny with my family of 4. Then my car actually broke down in Times Square. Right there, everything I had was gone. I didn't know it then, but in that same exact spot, thousands would one day gather to worship Jesus.
That's been happening in Times Square for time unknown. There's always been, obviously, people in New York who, would turn out for stuff like this. But, Mike's not special.
Because even when I felt like I was at my lowest, there was still time. What I didn't know.
You getting the message? There's still time. Look at all these things I've done. And I can do so much more, and there's still time. It's 11:59. That's going to be the message. It's 11:59. You've got 1 minute left to send me money.
Was we'd actually fill up Times Square with worship and bold faith. That my film, The Domino Revival, would premiere at over 2,000 theaters.
Yeah, you should really not see that. That's basically a Signorelli and a bunch of local New York false pastors, pretending that there's massive revival sweeping New York.
Theaters nationwide and debut at number 3 in the box office, only beaten by Martin Scorsese and The Exorcist.
Yeah, have time to research that, but I find it very difficult to believe.
That's why we must keep creating, because darkness still dominates the screen.
Yeah. So, when you see the movies like Scream and the one after this, Smile, and The Exorcist, and when you walk into those theaters, you know what you're signing up for, right? It's a horror movie. The real horror is when you walk into the Domino Revival or silly movies like that are packaged to present as if they're godly, but do nothing except lead you down the broad path to destruction that leads to hell. That's the real horror.
And there's still time to actually change that. Over 7 years, we raised $1 million from Southeast Asia alone.
Should you be bragging about fleecing $1 million from the flock in Southeast Asia? I don't get that.
Proving how hungry for truth the nations really are.
Yeah, it may prove that they're hungry, but what did you do with the money?
Eventually went on to write 2 best-selling books. I launched V1 College with nearly 1,000 students from 16 nations graduating.
Yeah, graduating, it is a fake college. It's a college of the stupid natural that a lot of these grifting false teachers do today. Mike is a good friend of Jenny Weaver. He just preached at her men's convention, and he has adopted the Jenny Weaver grifting model for his school, in that he has produced a ton of content, video content. Basically, you just click on a link and you get to watch it. And for $14.95, so it's like $15 a month, you get access. You're enrolled in the school, if you will, but it's a recurring charge, so you have to give a credit card. So most people, don't realize that they're still getting charged $15 a month, because it's not a lot of money. It's the same grift Jenny uses for her core nonsense. And before you start thinking it's like no big deal, it all depends on the following. So when Jenny Weaver first started the core, she admitted that she had over 13,000 core members. At $20 a month, that is over $3 million a year clean. I don't know what Signorelli has. I mean, he's got 1.17 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. His church, I believe, meets in 7 locations simultaneously. 7 different states simultaneously. So the grift is pretty significant. So I'm guessing that he's probably got a fair amount of these 1.17 million people suckered into joining the V1 college. And if you go there, it's like $15 a month. But it's $15 a month basically for, from what I could tell, nothing new. It's all pre-recorded. I mean, he put the work in, I guess, to get it all organized, but pretty sure he's done now. And this is going to be the grift of the future for this crew, the Jenny Weaver model. And for Weaver, by the way, that's just the core. That just gets you access to her daily activities. If you want to join her School of the Stupid Natural, that's like $1,000 a course, if I remember correctly. So
our V1 worship singles charted above Drake and Taylor Swift.
Does anybody believe for 1 second that V1 worship, which I never even knew was a thing, so I assume he's trying to make sure he can take a piece of that trough also, that Elevation and Hillsong and whatnot does. But does anybody really think for a second that they tracked higher than Drake and Taylor Swift? I mean, I don't know what this little snippet here is, but he's listed at 172, 173. So I'm going to just assume that Drake's song at 173, is not the only Drake song on this list, whatever this list is. But it's always presented in, it's a very professional packaging, by the way. There's no question. But, he's not charting higher than Taylor Swift. I mean, come on.
We baptized thousands and became one of the fastest growing churches in America.
Jeff Shorridge here from Enjoy Stewardship Solutions. You are blowing every record that we have seen. God is literally doing something here that we have never seen happen before.
Yeah, that's the common myth, mythology of the fake apostate church grifter. That because their speaking skills are so good that they're able to draw a lot with this message, it's automatically pawned off as a move of God. But I mean, it's no different than when Carl Lentz was the king of the roost in New York City. And he had just as many, or probably more, I would assume, in the old New York City Hillsong before everybody found out he was boinking his babysitter in his wife's bed. So, I say this all the time to people, the fact that Joel Osteen is able to preach to hundreds of thousands of people per weekend is not because he preaches the gospel. It's the opposite. People want to be able to go to a church, be promised that they're going to heaven. They may be willing to hand over 10% of their money, but they don't want to actually change anything about it. And that's the key idea here. Is the purpose-driven church model has created these cult of personality pastors, and Mike Signorelli is certainly one of them. He has a very engaging personality, and he suckers people in. I just did a sermon review on him where he absolutely just butchered the Bible to try to push the old tithing lies.
But now there are more witches and New Age practitioners in America than Presbyterians.
So the first on the left here, this just looks like a guy. Oh, I guess because he's got felt devil horns. Is that the idea? The lady on the right just looks like a staged picture. Like, oh, let me just sit here and read my book of the occult. Hey, what are you reading? Is the caption. But the one in the middle is the one that really cracks me up. So this bunch of Looney Tunes here, dressed like the Wicked Witch from the West and the Wizard of Oz, is supposed to mean that there's more witches in America than Presbyterians. Again, this is built to drive up the notion that the time is running out. It's 11:59. You have 1 minute left to give me money.
Bible sales are up, but biblical worldview is vanity.
Yeah, biblical worldview is a code speak for the NAR. Biblical worldview is, the translation basically is the Republican Party. So in order to have a proper biblical worldview, according to George Barna, who does this research, and the NAR, is that you have to believe that the Republican Party is righteous, the Democrat Party is evil, and basically go from there. So that's not a biblical worldview. Okay, that is an unbiblical worldview. But for Mike Signorelli, of course, it fits right in with his overall grift.
Entire generations slipping through our fingers, and just like that,
that's true.
It's midnight. Not symbolically, spiritually, culturally, eternally, midnight. But then the clock begins to turn. I mean, what if God is giving us one final moment?
What if God is giving us one final moment, and you believe that moment he is given to Mike Signorelli? I would say it's beyond lunacy, but that should be obvious.
But if, like Joshua, he's holding the sun still to save a generation, to rescue, to rebuild, to release the truth again, there's still time. I mean, we purchased our new Long Island space. It was built for sports, but repurposed for revival.
It's not revival.
We're establishing a global headquarters to train new leaders, to host new movements, and build the infrastructure to sustain a real awakening. We're launching a digital discipleship network that reaches the...
You have to understand, it's a great Bible verses in Matthew where Jesus pronounces woes upon the false teachers. A woe is like a curse, basically. And one of them says, woe to you, Pharisees, for you travel to the ends of the earth to make a single proselyte, which means a single convert. And by doing so, you make them twice the son of hell that you are. That's what Mike Signorelli is. And he's not the only one. This is the same tired argument. It's like, send me money because I have to go make more disciples. But the problem is that when your gospel's false, you're making false disciples. When you're selling a false Christ, you're not actually saving anybody. So it doesn't matter if it's 11:59. If you're putting your effort behind Mike Signorelli, you are only scattering people away from Jesus.
Unreached, even if they try to close our church doors again. And
yeah, that guy, that guy's Artur Pawlowski. Okay, he's not even from this country, by the way. He's from Canada. Those police officers dragging him away, those are Canadian police officers. And this guy's bat poop crazy. He's basically a hardcore, conservative, Trumpian idiot who was asked politely over and over and over again this was during the pandemic, if I remember correctly, and he refused to listen to what any of the court orders said about him continuing to open his church. Canada's not this country. It's a different country. They have their own rules and their own laws. He was warned, and then finally they had enough and they came in and they arrested him. And good. He should have been left in jail. Okay, because not only does he preach a false gospel, but he basically thumbed his nose or stuck his thumb in the eye of all the authorities in his country. Which, by the way, plenty of pastors do in this country too now. It's the in thing to do. It's Shane Idleman, John MacArthur. I know everybody reveres Johnny Mac. He did the same thing during COVID. He opened his church before the state told him he could. And God only knows how many people he fed into the COVID wood chipper. He's going to find out when he stands before Christ. I guarantee you that. This is not a game. Okay? This clown on the screen, he is not a virologist. He doesn't understand viruses. He only understands politics. And he understood this day what the consequences are. But he wanted this. This is what he wanted. He wanted this because he still uses it years later to grift more money, to get more people to donate to him. That's the whole thing.
Turning to large-scale gatherings like Breakers, where thousands are healed, set free, and commissioned into their calling.
Commissioned into their calling. Whatever.
They silence believers, we raise more disciples. They demolish churches, we build new ones. Because there's still time. We're believing for $10 million to fund...
Wait. I somehow didn't expect it to be that obvious, but this is the arrogance that comes along with it, which is they have no problem saying the quiet part out loud. So this entire 5-minute spiel about how great Mike Signorelli is and how fantastic, everything he's done is, and how, my God, time's running out and it's 11:59. He just comes flat out and admits that he wants $10 million.
Things like major gatherings around the world.
Who cares if you have a major gathering? Once again, if you're not preaching the gospel, what difference does it make?
A digital discipleship infrastructure that's global, our global headquarters, and the next wave of world-shaking, faith-based films that will fill screens with light.
The Domino Revival is not a faith-based film. It is an Antichrist-based film. It is to provide the illusion of revival, to delude people into thinking that by going to Mike Signorelli's church, somehow, your eternal life is covered. But without repentance and without hearing the true gospel, according to Romans, that doesn't happen.
Instead of darkness. So why partner? Because revival takes a runway where this commercial airliner that we built actually transforms into a rocket ship re-envisioned to break new atmospheres. Because deception is accelerating.
It sure is, Mike, and you ought to know.
Because we don't have forever. So what's the worst thing that can happen to a Christian? That they don't use the time that God gave them. What should you do?
Can I don't recall ordering the side order of guilt with this video. So So, it's what's the worst thing that can happen to you as a believer? That you die before you have a chance to give money to Mike Signorelli. So I'm just here to do the translation for you.
Partner, pray, give.
So two of those things are the same. Partnering is what he means by that is giving money. And they always throw prayer in to make it sound like they're being pious, but they're not. The message is very clear. He didn't ask for 10 million prayers. He asked for $10 million.
I mean, we've done about all that we can, but now you must act. Scan the QR code, tap the link, join Mission 1159.
That's the marketing. Join Mission 1159. So somewhere they all sat down and said, what can we, we got to come up, it's got to be a catchy catchphrase, makes people feel like they have to buy in, literally. And I guess what they settled on is Mission 1159, to give people the illusion, you got a minute left before Jesus comes back. And then so many people will have died apart from him because they didn't hear Mike Signorelli.
Before the clock strikes midnight again, because there's still time.
All right. Well, metaphorically and spiritually, it may actually be 11:59. I mean, I don't think that Christ is coming back tomorrow, but I think the love of most is growing cold. I think that's pretty clear. I think we live in a post-truth world, which cannot sustain itself. I think the threat of what's going to happen when the wrong people are in charge of things like AI. And quite frankly, the church at this point is a remnant. It's no longer a largely organized group of people who actually care about God and what he says. Instead, it's this hybrid NAR, dominionist, political, charismatic, apostate church system that's been raised on the steroids of the purpose-driven church model from Rick Warren in 1995, the seeker-driven models of the old Bill Hybels, church model, just driven on and ridden on by one grifter and schemer after another until we've gotten to this point. To the point where, the four horsemen of the demon-slaying apocalypse are upon us. And whether it's, Savchuk, Saldivar, Pagani, or Signorelli, it doesn't really matter. Or their forerunner, Greg Locke, or, Catherine Crick, who does this bit too. Now, it seems like Signorelli's trying to break out of the solely demon slayer cast, like Greg Locke has done. Greg Locke has basically moved on to bigger and better grifts, and with the help of Charisma News. And it seems like Mike's trying to do that. So you're getting more general theological attempts at preaching. Like I said, I just recently did a 2-part sermon review of an hour-long sermon he did on tithing, where basically he's trying to guilt you and strong-arm you into giving him money based upon absolute just butchering of the Bible. But this is like apparently the new grift that he has going, and it's 11:59. I've done all these great things, and I want to do so much more, and I'm not asking for much. I just want $10 million. I don't know if that's the right thing. It's from Austin Powers. And the sad part is with 1.7 million followers, he might get it. Because this generation within the apostate church just doesn't know any better. And they're not listening to the right voices, and they're skipping merrily down the broad path that leads to destruction, holding hands and singing Kumbaya. And I'm sorry, but following spiritual idiots like Mike Signorelli, watching ridiculous movies like the Domino Revival. This is the biggest announcement, by the way, of his ministry so far. 7 churches. 1.7 million followers, and the biggest announcement of his ministry is a 5-minute self-advertisement followed by a begging for $10 million. That's the biggest announcement of your ministry. That's pretty much all you need to know then about his ministry. Mark and avoid. Thanks for stopping by. Leave your comments. Test everything and hold fast.